Hi, my name is Elle Fox. I'm in 11th grade at PALCS, and I wrote and illustrated a children's book called Meatball and Birdie. Meatball, who is a dog, he finds this little bird in a bush and he realizes that he needs to take care of the bird. When Birdie's mom comes back, Meatball kind of has to go through that whole realization that, this wasn't forever, but I'm so grateful for the memories that we had. And the story, came from our story of being a foster family and how that kind of played out for us. Each time it kind of happened in a way that, we did our part and then we let them go, and we don't really hear much, we don't really get to be in their lives anymore. And it's a really difficult thing because you know that your purpose has been fulfilled when you feel that, like, I wish they were still here. Having them both based off of certain people, the characters, is like, oh, Meatball isn't me. But the whole experience, the whole journey, that was my story, That's how I felt as a foster sibling. And one of the things that I've found really, really interesting about putting the book out there is that I have all of these other people who I didn't know they were foster siblings, but now they're telling me I was a foster sibling, I did this, and I didn't put foster care at anywhere in the book. Just having that experience illustrated in that way, it's really nice to know that people understand it and relate to it, because I never had that.